Welcome to the Radical Enlightenment podcast. I'm so excited for our author and guest today, Tina Djuretic. She has just published a memoir about surviving childhood abuse, a Christian cult, and three toxic relationships. And this episode is for anyone who wants to understand toxic relationships, healing, and how to thrive after abuse. And before we got on this call, you gifted me with a copy of your book, and I'm about 28 pages in, and I'm so hooked. It's only because of the holidays I couldn't finish reading. I was wrapping presents, and my mom was visiting, and but it's amazing. So I would love you to give, a little bit of background on your story so that people can understand what you have survived, and then I'd love us to talk about how we can help others break free of some of these patterns that you were able to break free from.
Wonderful. That sounds great.
So, welcome to the show. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for taking a look at my memoir. I know
Yeah.
it's a super busy time of the year, right? So it's not a good time to be reading, but
Mhm.
they they I put this book out just a few months ago in September, so it's all still rather new. But I started writing it about 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and I even kick off the book this way, so you would have read this part.
Mhm.
But what started me to do this, because this was not on my list of things to do, even in my life, let alone, now when I'm still in my working years. But um, I had a really difficult breakup with a partner, which often sort of, sets these things in motion.
Mhm.
So for me, it was a breakup. And why this one was so significant, I haven't had many partners in my life, three really significant ones with a lot of years in between them, right? I was always that person that needed years in between. I wasn't a serial dater or any of those things, but this last one, I'm well into my 40s. I really thought he was the one, right? Like, this is the one I'm not even necessarily marry. That was never a thing for me, but that's what it felt like. This one was permanent. And so when it started to turn sour, I did what a lot of people do, desperately tried to save it. But I really didn't spend too long doing that because I started to see things that were familiar to me, and red flags, were just going off, warning bells were going off and going off. And so I dove into those warning bells, and it took a few months for me to sort it out, but I finally understood that my partner was bipolar, which is, so I'm ruining the book for you, was bipolar like my mother. And that really brought me to my knees.
Mhm.
I didn't see it coming. And yet, once I stepped out of it, the warning signs were there from day one.
Mhm.
So they were there. I just didn't recognize them or maybe want to recognize them. I was not anymore, very good at making excuses for other people's bad behavior, right?
Mhm.
We do that when we're in relationships and just in life. So this is how you allow people to get away with bad behavior. And then you go, I didn't see it coming. But yeah, the warning signs were
Yeah.
there. So
Let's take it
this
back even further. So let's go to like your childhood, your mother, your father. What
mm,
happened in your household? What led to becoming part of a Christian cult that then led to these subsequent patterned relationships?
Yes. So when this relationship ended, I went to seek help in the form of a channeler. And
Wow.
that's when I went backwards and started to see exactly this. Where did this start? Why did this start? I'll preface it by saying that I blocked childhood. And even to this day, you can ask me details about childhood, and I don't know. I don't know the details. I knew the broad strokes of the things that had happened because they're hard
Yeah.
to forget. But I couldn't tell you what the house looked like, names of friends, anyone even in that church. I can barely come up with a name.
Wow.
I really blocked it out. So that should have been my first clue that there was something wrong, but I saw it as this. My sisters remembered everything
Wow.
and they struggled with those memories. And we always joked that I was better off
Yeah.
forgetting.
Yeah.
And yet I still had this pattern of toxic relationships. So even though I didn't remember it in the forefront of my mind, my subconscious sure as heck did,
Hmm.
and was living out that pattern. So the home I grew up in was incredibly abusive. Again, with a bipolar mother, she was not only physically abusive, she was incredibly mentally abusive. I mean, playing games was really
Wow.
her thing. She loved to play games and manipulate us. And
Pitting the sisters against each other,
oh my gosh,
getting you in
right?
trouble with your father so that you would get beat and then smile as you're getting beat. That your writing, I was just, wow. I was feeling your experience through your writing. It was very visceral, very vivid.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you, because I wanted
Yes.
it to be like that one for the person
Yes.
who read it, right? To really feel that,
Mhm.
because we are feeling, that's what we are, right? And that's
Mhm.
also later how we're going to heal, is through feeling, right? So the feeling is really important. But yes, it was the extreme manipulation, is the power play, right? So being able to manipulate the children, me and my sisters, so that we would fight with each other, so that she had reason to punish us. I mean, how do you even
I know.
sort that out as a child? You don't, right? My older sister was the only one who really sorted that out, as she got into like
Wow.
12, 13 years old. But as little children, of course, we didn't understand that, right? You love your
Yeah.
parents unconditionally. It doesn't matter what they do to you. You don't stop loving your parents. You stop loving yourself,
Yeah.
right? This is the trauma that comes to you because you always think, what's wrong with me that I can't please them, right? But also manipulating my father as we got older, and she wasn't able to physically abuse us as much. He was stronger, right? So then, but then also the game became, now I'm going to do things so that you get in trouble, and then I'm going to watch him beat you when he gets home. And now I get to watch. And isn't that fun? And that, was when I really just understood just how um, sick, sick my mother was.
Mhm.
Mental illness, absolutely. But it went further than that. It was evil. And I felt that evilness, you know, always. So it was a really toxic environment, mentally, physically, emotionally abusive. And then when I'm 10 years old, they join a cult, right? So it gets even worse because now the cult gives them permission to be even more abusive. Not that they use those words, obviously, but
Right.
just by constantly preaching, spare the rod, spoil the child. Well, that's just giving an abusive person, just like, now you have God behind you telling you to be that way, right? Like
Right.
it only gets worse from there. But also because the church itself was such such a first of all, what makes it a cult, in my opinion, is the separation and isolation, right? The minute they tell you you're not allowed to congregate with the outside world because they're all sinners and they're going straight to hell.
And you couldn't do
uh,
extracurricular activities as a kid. Everything had to be separated.
oh my God, we were pulled out of public school. We had to go to the church's school. So now 7 days a week, you're being like literally brainwashed with their teachings. Even the books they were teaching us from were homeschooling books
Hmm.
made by Christians. So every lesson had God in it and had, and those things. And but on top of that, you also have the fear mongering, right? This wasn't a church that preached love. It was a church that preached punishment.
Um,
And oof, give that to abusive parents. Well, my
yeah.
God, it's
Perfect
not just your
fit.
parents who are punishing you, it's God.
Right.
The fear that they poured into us every
Mhm.
single day of going to hell, burning in hell. We're going to church 4 nights a week,
Wow.
right? We're going to school 7 days a week.
Wow.
All of our friends belong to this church. So there was no outside world. We weren't allowed to have a television. We weren't allowed to listen to any music that wasn't Christian. We weren't allowed to obviously go to the theater or plays or anything like that we weren't allowed to wear pants as women. So we weren't even allowed to play sports. And I was super athletic growing up. I was a dancer when I was a child. So those things were all stripped away. So not only did we change who we were overnight and then get rid of our TV and our radio and our, right, like everything that was our life, but we were also stripped of our friend, our school, and then the things that we loved most in the world. For me, that would have been ballet.
Yeah.
Um, all those things, life changed in a moment, and we weren't given any time to even process it. It was like, we're Christians now. We're like, for what?
Mm-hmm.
We never even went to church before, but it was that drastic. So the abuse continued from there, only now it wasn't just our parents punishing us. It was also like, what's God going to do to punish you?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was just an added layer of someone else um, that wasn't loving us.
Yeah.
God wasn't love. He was punishment. Right? The message was so twisted. So yeah, and then I left home pretty early. I left when I was just barely after I turned 17. I was
Okay.
halfway through grade 12. So I had to I had already had jobs since I was 10 years old. So I knew how to work, I knew how to save money, I knew how to buy my own things. We were quite impoverished.
You lived with
Uh,
your sister for a little while? Your older sister?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, my sister left home maybe 6 months before I did.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a year older than me, so she would have just been 18. And she was living with her then boyfriend and his mother at the time. And so they cleared out a room for me. I paid rent. I lived there until I graduated. And then my sister and her boyfriend and myself, after I graduated high school, we went and got an apartment together. And I did that until I moved to Italy and began this other side of myself that loved to travel. Very I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm very like explore, 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 knowledge, and wanderlust and not a lot of commitments. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I had nothing. I didn't want children. I didn't want to get married. So I didn't have these things I was working towards. I wanted to see the world.
Oh.
That was the extreme upside of my life, right? Because there's usually it's a pendulum, right? When you have
Mm-hmm.
these extreme highs, you also have these extreme lows. The idea is to have a little bit more balance in your life, right? So my extreme highs were traveling, and my extreme lows were my personal life,
Okay.
because buried childhood trauma or not, I was reliving it over and over and over again without understanding that I was doing that
Mm.
because I buried my childhood.
So when
And
you
the
saw
part
this
I did
channeler,
remember, right? You're like, I'm going to just bury that too.
right? And when you
Right.
saw this channeler, what was uncovered?
So, what I loved about her, and I've heard this before, is that because, I even said to her, do I need to go to hypnotherapy or something to uncover my memories in order to heal them? And she said, absolutely not. Spirit and your soul will reveal to you the parts that need to be healed. The rest doesn't need to be remembered. Why? What does it serve you? Does it serve you to really just dive in and go back and remember the whole thing? What you need to remember is the pain it caused, what changed in you at that moment, because something changes when you have huge pain, right? You either go within, you stop talking, you become mute, you stop, there's so many, you start gaining weight, you start comfort eating. We have reactions to our pain. And so she helped me really to go back. And so she said, no, I don't need you to do this. She's like, let's walk through. What was interesting is that she started with past lives, because I went to her and basically was like, I had my last breakup and I feel so
Mm-hmm.
deceived and I'm so angry at the universe. And she kind of went, whoa, because I came in like on fire,
Mm-hmm.
mad, and I want an explanation from the universe.
Right.
Why does it keep punishing me? Because
Yeah.
that's what it feels like,
Yeah.
right? When bad things keep happening to you, it's like, gosh, I'm a good person. Why do you keep punishing me?
Right. And then you start to believe that that is the God, that it is a vengeful, spiteful, fear, a God that you should be afraid of, that wishes, strikes down upon you, right?
Right? That favors those and doesn't favor you for some reason.
Yeah.
And it becomes your environment because, of course, this is what you're manifesting now. If you're living in your pain, well, you're just manifesting more and more of what energy goes where focus flows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Energy flows where focus goes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're focusing on only the bad things that are happening to you, well, that's where your energy is going. So boom, more bad things are coming your way because that's what the universe understands that you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's your frequency. So she first took me back into past lives to where my biggest issue was abandonment. Not abandonment, betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Betrayal by men. And so we walked to that lifetime. We just went straight to that one. She's like, let's go to the one where it started. All the lifetimes that followed after that are irrelevant. We don't need to walk through every betrayal you've ever had. Let's go find the one that stuck. Because things are happening to us all the time, but when they're really, really traumatic, that's when they actually penetrate our soul. Once it becomes an imprint on the soul, now it becomes karma.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have lots of little bad things that happen. You drop a vase and you're like, oh, damn, I broke the vase. I'm not having an emotional response to this. So therefore it's not so strong, if you follow what I'm saying, that it actually like
Right.
makes an imprint on your soul. So we went back to that moment. We walked through it. And then sitting right there in this busy cafe with all these people around us, she had put us in a bubble, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
I was new to this. I was like, why are we with so many people when we're going to walk through some weird healing, like deep stuff for me, right? It was odd,
Mm-hmm.
but really it was like, picture this, picture that. Now let it go. Now say this, you're done. And I'm like,
Wow.
what? It's that easy. And she's like, this one is because we're talking about a past life, right? But we're also now going to pull that in and show you how you're manifesting that now.
Okay.
Um,
And how were
then we
you?
went into childhood. Yeah, great. That was great. It made so much sense to me. This life was back in Mongolia, and 100 years ago or more. And I saw how this life had similarities. Same strong mother, same father that was very educated, smart. My father wasn't educated, but he read a lot. He loved history, educated himself.
Yeah.
Um, and I saw all the similarities, and she's like, do you even see how the circumstances of this life that you're in now are mimicking that one
Mm-hmm.
in order for you to know that that pain is still there so you can heal it? So we did. We got rid of it, and now it won't repeat itself, which I love. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. Diving into childhood took a little more effort, right? Because this is present in this lifetime, and there was a lot to unpack. So we didn't we went through a little bit of the things that happened in childhood, but not really. She did not bring up exact moments. It was more pivotal moments like, here's where your soul went. Yeah, I'm not taking this anymore. Here's where your soul went. It's time for me to leave. Here's where your soul went. This isn't right. So
Mm.
it was more that. It
It was
wasn't
more your
like,
hero's journey.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And then it was what really helped me, and this is really important, I think, for anyone that needs to forgive, because we do need to forgive, right? Forgiveness is a poison that you drink,
Mm-hmm.
not them. You drink the poison and you wonder why they're not suffering. Forgiveness is not about them. It is about you
Yeah.
letting go that burden that you're carrying. So what I loved about this channeler is that after we went through my childhood, she took me to my parents.
Wow.
And that was really important. And I'm so pleased she did that. And now this is what I tell people all the time. Generational trauma is a very, very real thing. And most of us, especially if you have families with severe trauma, it's very often generational.
Mm-hmm.
Broken people raise broken people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they try to go so to the opposite of what happened to them that they just create a whole new set of problems.
Mm.
Again, there's that balance, right? If you go from one extreme to the other, this is not balance. And so they might not want to raise broken people, but unless they've healed, broken people raise broken people. That's it. So generational trauma goes on for years and years and years. By walking me through my parents' trauma, it didn't make it okay. It's
Right.
not okay that they did those
Right.
things, but it does give you the understanding that they suffered those things too, and then raised you in a way, the only way
Mm-hmm.
they knew how.
Mm-hmm.
That helped me to understand in order to lead me to forgiveness
And compassion.
and compassion. Absolutely. And just because I forgave them and found compassion doesn't mean that I didn't put boundaries down.
Mm-hmm.
My father's not with us anymore, so he's not a thing, but my mother is. I have 100% forgiven her. Truly, I hold no ill will towards my mother, which is huge. And let me tell you, I spent 20 years trying to do that, and I couldn't.
What do you think was the reason you were able to do it after 20 years of trying?
Two things: understanding where she came from,
Uh-huh.
because my parents never talked about their past, not ever. And we never met their parents or any of their families. So they weren't even in the picture. So we had zero understanding of their history. So once I understood it, that gave me compassion. But the other thing that she said to me that just clicked in my head when she said it was, we are all souls in these earthly bodies having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother's soul is pure and innocent, just like everybody else's. So the things that she did in her human avatar while she's
Mm-hmm.
here living on this planet, yeah, they were lousy. You don't even have to forgive those. You're allowed to go, it is not okay that you did that to me,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to forgive her soul. Because this is the avatar is also going to die away once this lifetime is over, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
soul is what remains. That just little bit of separation that gave me permission to go, good, still mad at you, but I forgive your soul.
Wow. Why do you think this soul's journey chose to explore evilness?
Oh, yes. So that is another really big part of it is that if, and this is also what was explained to me, but I'd say this explanation came maybe a little bit later. Maybe it was at the same time. I don't remember now.
Mm-hmm.
But this really helped me as well. Before we come to this planet, before our souls incarnate into this human form, we sit with our soul family and we decide what this lifetime is going to look at like. We sit there and we go, okay, because this is school, Earth is a school. Our souls come here to learn, right? So if our soul has already gone, I want to know what love feels like. Cool, we did that. I want to know what success feels like. Cool, we come and we do that. I want to know what fame feels like. Cool, we come and we do that. When we start running out of fun things, our soul has been around for a really long time. Now it goes, cool. I want to know what pain feels like. I'd like to know what cancer feels like.
Whoa.
Right? Like, and we go, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the innocence of our soul. Our soul is just this non-judgmental. They don't go good experience, bad experience. The soul goes experience.
Mm-hmm.
I learn from this experience. Now, to truly understand any experience, you have to live both sides of it.
Yeah. I do understand that, this world is filled with so many polarities and every color of rainbow in between. I believe that God is expressing itself through these infinite fractals,
Yeah.
ourselves, and because it is the all, the totality, that every possibility must be expressed. So that is just part of that expression of the rainbow, of dark to light.
Yes, exactly. And so we, without judgment,
Mhm.
our soul wants to experience everything. Well, you can't truly experience something until you've done both sides of it. So that was something she explained as well that day. Whatever's been done to you,
You've done to
you've
someone.
done it to
Yeah.
someone else.
Yeah.
That is a really, when you look at people that have suffered things like sexual abuse, it's hard for them to
Mhm.
take that, but it is the truth of our souls.
Mhm.
If you are the victim in one lifetime, you are the perpetrator in the next one. And that is where you're able to find forgiveness because the judgment you're putting on the person that hurt you, you have to think, oh my God, how many lifetimes was I the abuser? And
There's
that's
this
where you realize the soul deserves to be forgiven.
there's a story called The Egg that my husband brings up quite a bit. And it's kind of like a cartoon with different images that shows this very thing. The soul's journey. It's like, I was this person and that person too. And you were this and you were that. And it shows the whole entire journey of being every part of that gamut. I'll link to it in our show notes as well for those that want to see
Yeah.
it because it's a visual representation of what you're sharing. So that
Mm.
helped you get that understanding and awareness and compassion. And it's like letting go of being hypocritical. If I've done this at some point, then I can be at peace or at ease with the whole experience of the human capacity.
Yeah. And if you don't forgive in this lifetime, and if you don't heal that pain, well, guess what? You're just going to do it again in the next lifetime. So you're benefiting yourself, you're benefiting the other person by forgiving them, and you're doing what we came here to do, to
Mhm.
experience. The first person I needed to forgive was myself for choosing these lousy things to experience in the first place. I chose my parents. I chose my sisters. I
You're like, why
chose,
did I do this?
why did I do this? Right. But I say, think of an actor choosing a script. You're going to play this super juicy role that every actor in their lifetime would love to play. You're going to play this woman who loses her child in a car accident. Okay, so great on paper, it looks great. When that actor has to embody that in actuality and live through it for months of filming, they often walk out of that quite traumatized,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So that's what our soul does. Our soul goes, ooh, let's try this juicy thing that we're going to do. Oh, also, we have to put in a whole bunch of karma from these past lives and a bunch of lessons we need you to learn. And I need you to ascend. So we're going to put this in your recipe box as well. We're going to program that all into your root chakra, and voila, new life is born. But then the new life is born not remembering
Mhm.
any of it. So it just has to live the experience and go, this is lousy, right? So you have to forgive yourself first, your soul, for even choosing these lessons. But your soul doesn't want to harm you. Your soul doesn't work against you. It is only there to help you grow. So you forgive your soul and then you learn to trust it explicitly.
I'm assuming
Surrender.
the toxic relationships that you found yourself in were patterned after your upbringing.
Mm.
How how did you learn to break free of those patterns so they don't keep repeating and you find the same partner again and again and again? What will be different now? And how did you do that? And what will you be looking for as you're finding the next person?
Part of the healing, but well, okay. When I was very young and still broken, probably around, oh gosh, maybe 12 or so years old, when I started babysitting and things like that, I knew that I needed to break this pattern. Of course, I didn't have the understanding I have now, but somewhere my subconscious mind understood. I knew that my father was beaten by his father, and I knew that my mother's mother was evil. Those are the only things that I really knew about them. So I had enough understanding to understand that this was, in fact, being passed on. So personally, I made the decision not to have children. I don't think that's the only answer. Um, I don't think it has to be that extreme. I have no regrets that I don't have children. For me, that I needed that. I needed to make that. Um, but the other way to make sure you're not passing it on is to heal it.
Mhm.
When you heal your entire bloodline. So not only are you going to parent your children differently, but then they're going to parent their children differently as well. But as well, not only do our souls choose the life that we're going to be born into, but we're often choose the same bloodline over and over. Because if we've come into that bloodline and we were supposed to heal something and we couldn't do it in that lifetime because we've had many, many lifetimes where we didn't succeed because it was so dark on this planet. It was so dense. It was really hard to heal. So, but then our soul comes out of that lifetime, knows exactly what happened. It goes, yeah, I'm going back in.
Mhm.
Let's do it again. Let's see if we can do it again. Right. So we get invested in that bloodline to help heal it, which means that other souls in our life, in our bloodline, are doing the same thing. So by healing myself in this one, not only do I then heal my offspring, et cetera, but those souls that are sitting there waiting to reincarnate, waiting for someone in my family and my bloodline to have another baby so they can come and reincarnate, they're now born into a bloodline where that healing has been done. So we are helping future generations. It is the least selfish thing that you can do. Heal yourself, you heal your entire bloodline. that is a beautiful mission for your soul. If that is the only thing that you accomplish in this world is to bring
Mhm.
healing to your bloodline, why not? Why not, right? They deserve it. My parents deserve healing. They deserve peace. My mother's never known peace in her life. She's never known love. She's never known fulfillment. I don't wish that for anybody, even my abuser.
So from your perspective, how does one heal that family generational trauma? And some people have tried therapy and they go, yeah, it's nice to be heard and, witnessed and have a sounding board. But I have insight, but now
Later.
what? The patterns still keep going on. So how does one break the pattern?
So I think therapy is amazing. I certainly don't diss the therapy at all, but I have seen people who talk about it for 20 years and they're
Right.
no,
I
and
see that as
that's
well.
because, yeah, and that's because we're mind, body, and spirit, right? Whether you're spiritual or not, you're still a mind, a body, and a soul. So mind, body, and spirit, you need to work on all of these things to truly come into healing. And it's not going to happen overnight either.
Mhm.
It is hard because the hardness, if I can say that, the difficulty, I guess that's a better word, is going to be reflective of how much trauma you've been through, right? Because you do need to go back to those moments and not relive them, but journal or dive into them enough to get the feelings, right? Again, it's about feeling. Once you can get those feelings out, then you can start to heal them. But you do need to do one thing at a time. So right now I'm writing, I'm totally engulfed in writing my second book, which is going to be exactly that,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to leave people hanging at the end of my memoir, like, yay, she found healing after this difficult life. How? How did you find it? So I
Exactly.
always knew the next book would be, how I did it. So the entire 4 years that I was writing, editing, working on this, I was going through my own healing and I didn't have any teachers to help or to show me the way. I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do here. So I took copious notes. And thank God that I did, because I don't know that I would be able to remember everything I did, but
Yeah.
it's all right there. And so now I'm writing this. So I'm diving into this as we
Right.
as we speak. So there are a couple of things to do. First of all, again, forgive yourself. Start there. Start by understanding your situation. It's really hard to do when you're in it, but try to take a little bit of a step back, enough that you can journal your situation. Journaling is so powerful. I've heard that, from therapists my whole life, journal, la, 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 la. Never did it. Man, I get it now. I get why it's powerful. There's something, as soon as you intend to heal, first of all, I'm going to say this, as soon as you intend to
Mhm.
heal, your
That's
soul
huge.
takes over.
It's huge.
Huge. Your soul goes, oh God, finally. Because our souls
Mhm.
cannot jump in unless we ask for help. But we have a team around us just waiting for the moment where we ask for help. Otherwise, we get to make our own decisions in life, right? So as soon as we ask for help, it's activated. A great place to start is with your root chakra, because we are energy systems in our body, right? This is the computer chip that's running our avatar, if you will. They get computed with trauma, 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 trauma. Your base chakra or your root chakra down by your tailbone there is the first one that comes online. So first of all, your soul has already programmed things into it before you were born, right? The karma it wants you to heal, the lessons, the things that are, from past lives. And then until you're about 7 years old, you're just a sponge, just absorbing your environment. And that's all going into your root chakra. So now you have this energy center holding all of this trauma, if that's what happened to you, whether that's big trauma or little trauma. A lot of people feel like, if I didn't have the great big traumas happen to me, then what's the problem? Well, what if even something as simple as a parent died when you were 5 or 6? Say your mother dies, you're 5 or 6 years old, your father is falling apart, you're the oldest child. So who steps up? You
Mhm.
do. You become an adult when you're not ready to be an adult. You're still supposed to be a child. This is trauma. Trauma isn't always people doing bad things to you.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's very
It's life.
situation,
Yeah.
right? Trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
We all have trauma.
The safety, security, survival must have that basic need met before you can self-actualize anything farther than that. So, finding ways to feel safe and secure in your own body. You mentioned to me grounding practices.
Mm.
What do you do for grounding?
So your root chakra is also your grounding chakra, right? It's literally what grounds you. So, you meet people who are very, they're all over
Mhm,
the place. And then you meet people that are very grounded. You're very grounded, right?
mhm,
Just sitting here talking to you, I feel how grounded you are. So you feel that from people. So there's a couple things that I learned to do for the root chakra. One was journaling it all out. You can't hide when it's in front of you in black and white.
mhm,
The second one was meditation. And man, I struggled with this one. I have a monkey mind. It goes 1,000 miles a minute. And people really struggle with this, but we don't have to be so defined either. There's no one right way to heal, right? There are many modalities. So find what works for you. So meditation can be walking through the forest. The trees are literally grounded into the earth by walking amongst them and in their energy, and take the music out of your ears for a minute too. Like just walk through the forest, feel the feels,
mhm,
earthing, grounding, literally putting your feet in the
mhm,
sand or in the dirt is also really, really just, it's literally earthing and grounding.
mhm,
Meditation is really good for this. And for me, there needs to be movement as well, because
mhm.
your movement, your energy inside of you gets really blocked and
Yeah,
stagnant, and it doesn't have anywhere to go. That's why people do yoga. Yoga
yeah,
isn't about exercise; it's about moving the energy, grounding you, and flowing what needs to go out, so that the rest of it can also flow within you. So for me, some movement is important. If
mhm.
yoga is not your thing, Tai Chi,
Qigong,
Tai Chi, Qigong, any of these things are
dance party in your
wonderful.
living room.
Thank you. That dance party, if you're a jogger, a biker, it doesn't matter. Just do some movement, right?
Yeah.
Any movement. And it's better to do 5 minutes a day than once a week for an hour as well. It's making these things a daily practice that really solidify them and
Mhm.
just really ground us. So
Even
journal
rebounding, heel drops, or getting on a trampoline to move the lymph system,
is
anything where we're moving multidimensionally.
sometimes
Definitely.
I just sit there and just shake. Like
Hmm.
if I just had a really good healing session and I'm like, well, I'm
Yes.
gonna shake this off. I'll just stand up and just shake it.
Yes.
Just movement is super important. So that's body, right? So mind, body, spirit. We're grounding. By writing, we're kind of, our mind is being engaged. By grounding, our soul and our spirit is being anchored into Gaia, into Mother Earth, because she's the one that's going to help us to heal, right? And then the movement is your body. So these things are a really good place to start, because it's not going to happen in 5 minutes either, right? Like past stuff, past lives, yeah, heal that in 5 minutes, no problem. But the things that are really cemented into you.
Mhm.
So once you do all of those things and you're starting to remove your old computer chip that was programmed into you, now you need a new one. So this goes hand in hand with reprogramming and
That's what I do. I don't
reparenting.
know if you knew that about me, but that's my
No.
work. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Mhm.
Okay, so then you know this side.
Mhm.
Reprogram yourself.
Yeah.
I listened to 30 days of positive affirmations. Never thought I would get an ounce of sleep if I did that, but I did. After like 5 days, I started to sleep through it. And man, what a difference that made. I had sticky notes all over my apartment with positive affirmations.
Mhm.
Every time I had a negative thought about myself, because of course my mother was very mentally abusive. So, I mean, every day of my life, I was told, you're fat, you'll never be anything, no one will ever love you. I didn't
Mhm.
even want you. You're nothing but a burden to this family. Like that program was so strong.
Mhm.
It bled into my relationships, right? Because that's what I thought about myself. I didn't outwardly think that about myself, but my subconscious mind did. So I had to reprogram
Mhm.
that. So if I looked in the mirror and put on an outfit and went, oh God, you're fat in this, I immediately caught it and went, nope. And I would write like 10, you are beautiful. I love my body. Like I would make sure that whatever the programming, I was starting to catch it because I was starting to become
Good.
aware of.
Aware. Mhm. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you too about the spirit. You went from an extreme Christian background in a cult. Two, I hear you talking about Mother Gaia and the chakra
Yeah.
system and spirit. So just for a few minutes, how did you make that transition? What awakened you to that shift?
This happened in stages for me. It didn't happen all at once. I'll assume I wasn't ready, but I was mid 20s. I'd say 26 even. I can probably pinpoint it, 26 or so, 27, somewhere in there, when I met my first spiritual person. She was a white witch. That's what she used to
Oh,
call her. Yeah, so and when she was even coming to my apartment, it was a friend of mine that wanted to date her. And he said, I met this girl. She's really out there, like really woo woo. I
hmm
don't understand half of what she's saying, but the other half, like at first I thought she was crazy,
hmm
but she's starting to grow on me. Can I bring her to your house for dinner because you have a really good like bullshit detector? And I was like,
Okay.
yeah, bring her over. And within 5 minutes, and I had never met anyone like this ever before, because obviously going to a church, this is not,
Oh, right.
this is
And
all
is she
devil
is she
worship.
Wiccan? A Wiccan
Uh,
or something? Oh,
she was, she just
okay.
called herself a white witch. This would have
Okay.
been like 1996, right? So language again also has changed, maybe Wiccan, but I don't ever remember hear that
Yeah.
word.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, but she had all of it, seeing, hearing, feeling, the all of it. So she did numerology, tarot reading. She didn't even need any tools. She could just sit in front of you and tell you your whole life. And that's what she did the first night we kind of met. And that's when I went, oh, you can't make that up. Like, I know he didn't tell you because that was the whole point of you coming over was to see if you're for real. He
hmm
intentionally didn't say a word about me, obviously. So, and then we spent 3 months together
Wow.
and she gave me astrology books and numerology books. And true to my Sagittarius nature, I dove in with both feet. I didn't bother to digest any of it or maybe even understand it. I just dove in to the point where I exploded. And she kind of went, you need to
Well,
put the books down, Tina, right? Like, oh my God. Like, I didn't even have to say anything. She just came over, saw my energy one day and went, oh my God, you need to put the books down. And I was like, but
whoa.
there's more. And she's like, not for you.
Wow.
And then she exited my life.
Wow.
And the next 15 years, I'd say, even 20, back in those days, you didn't just flip on YouTube and you could find
hmm
someone talking about
No,
spiritualism.
you have to read
You went
books.
to
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Or you went to a newspaper and a psychic was advertising, and then you didn't know if they were real or if they were scammy, right? So I liked to wait for people who recommended
Referrals.
stuff. I
Yeah.
didn't even have a lot of special spiritual friends, right? So it was like, I had dabbed my foot in by reading the Celestine prophecy. I understood
Yeah.
energy. I understand the patterns of people stealing it, but I wasn't taught any boundaries or how to control it or how to not feed them my energy, right? So you get caught in your patterns and you just keep doing it. And so I was consciously aware of it to some degree, and yet still doing it, right? Didn't help me. But I was starting to let go of religion now because once I left religion, I just went, no, I'm agnostic. I believe in nothing, right? You're
Yeah.
all cults, right? So this was my, oh, okay, maybe you're not all, things. But when people would start to talk about the really woo-woo aspects of spiritualism, I would tap out.
hmm
A, I didn't get it. And B, I'm like, okay, aliens are down here controlling. You know what I mean? Like I'd go,
hmm
okay, brother. Because I wasn't there yet. And now I'm the woo-woo person. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I would want maybe sometimes psychic predictions or a breakup with a partner. I would be like, oh, I need help. So I lived in Mexico for many years. I got to meet a couple of shamans, things like that. And again, interesting psychic readings about my future and stuff, but still not growing me now,
Okay.
right? Like, so it wasn't really until 4 years ago when I broke up with this last partner, met this channeler,
hmm
and she's like, yeah, you've been 1 foot in and 1 foot out of spirituality for 20 years. We're not playing that game anymore. Like it's dive in or get out. Do you know what I mean? I mean, she didn't say it like that, but do you know what I mean? That's kind of what it was. And that's when
Wow.
it was like smashed me in the face. No, you are listening this time. We've been gently programming you for 20 years, and now it's time for you to be all in.
Wow.
So 4 years ago is when I really had my spiritual awakening. Yeah. I had tastes of it before that.
let's talk about triggers. So
Mm,
you have
love
this
the
body,
subject.
mind, spirit practice now. You have these different tools and techniques, awarenesses and understanding. And as they're showing up in your life, how are you recognizing them? How are you moving through them? What advice would you give to others about their triggers as well?
So one of my favorite sayings is triggers are your friend.
Hmm.
They are there to grow you, right? Again, your soul is pushing along your healing journey. So it's revealing to you the things, because sometimes we have it in our mind, an order we want to forgive people, or like I'm going to start in childhood and start healing there, and then I'll work through my life. That's not always how your soul wants it to happen. I think that if you're not having any prompts, then yes, you need to go back to childhood at some point. We all do because it starts there and that's where the programming is. But um, all along the way, your soul is going to put people into your life or situations into your life to show you the next thing, to shine a light on the next thing it wants you to heal. We're like an onion and we have a lot of layers, right? So, first of all, there's no hurry to do anything in the way that we never stop healing in our entire lives. So, if you're trying to get to an end goal, I'm just going to stop everyone out there right there. Don't think about the end goal. Work on one piece at a time because this is
Hmm.
what you're going to be able to handle. So, for example, let's say you're at work and somebody does something to you and you like, there's people that anger you and there's people that like get right under your skin
Hmm.
and really trigger you. And you can be angry for days,
Hmm.
when you just can't let it go. And even you're
Yep.
even saying to yourself, for the love of God, let this go. I'm at the most fabulous party tonight and I can't even enjoy myself because I'm so angry at what that person just did. And it
Hmm.
goes in your mind on replay. Okay, so this is a trigger. So once you start to heal and recognize that these things are being done for you,
Hmm.
not to you, then you don't just brush them over or just stay in your anger. Start asking yourself some questions. Man, I am really pissed off right now. Like that woman got under my skin. Okay, analyze. What exactly did she say? Probably not even the words. What was she doing that upset me? You know what? She said those things in front of a room full of people. She could have said it to me by myself, but she didn't. She wanted to publicly humiliate me.
Okay.
That's why I'm so angry. Okay. I've got the emotion now. I've got the trigger point. Now, why did that affect me? Who does that remind you of? Oh man, that was my mother.
Hmm.
My mother loved public humiliation because why just tell me those terrible things on my own when she could wait till all my friends were over and then pull out all the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me as a child. Remember that time you peed your pants? Do you know what I mean? Parents that
Hmm.
do that and
Hmm.
they just humiliate their children in front of their friends. Not that I ever peed my pants, but you follow what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
definitely.
But now I'm going, oh, that trigger reminds me of my mother. I don't need to sit in that memory for the next 8 hours, 5 hours. At this point, because I've journaled so much, I don't even need to journal. I just need to go, oh, I
Hmm.
found the connection. All right, mother, one more time. I'm going to forgive you for those things that you did to me. Although I'll probably start with here's why those things used to piss me off. I'm going to get that out of my system first. Here's how you hurt me. And now I'm going to forgive you for that. That's it. I don't need to work on it for hours. I just need to go, what's the emotion that was triggered? Who does that remind me of? Now forgive.
And you forgive at the root rather than this person who recently did it to you. It's more like, I forgive mom. And then maybe
Yes.
after forgive mom, now I forgive this other person too.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because they're on a healing journey. Thank you for triggering me.
Hmm.
Thank you for being the person that triggered me because I was able to heal something. I know you have your own issues to work through. I'm sending you love and light.
Wow.
And I hope you find your own healing, right? Does it happen like that right at the beginning? Of
Mm.
course not. When you're
Yeah.
first starting your journey, you're going to journal about these things, but all through life afterwards, these triggers are going to continue to happen because they're going to teach us what needs to be healed. Our soul is directing us. We've just forgotten how to listen to our
Hmm.
souls. Our lives are so busy and so loud. We just have forgotten these sort of subtle messages that we get from our own soul that only wants to help us.
What would you say to the person that's in a narcissistic relationship or an abusive relationship for the nteenth time, and they find themselves in the pattern? They can't seem to break free, even though they're aware of it. Like, it's happening again. What would
Mm.
you say to that person?
If you are still in your relationship,
Mhm.
we can never, let me go back. In life, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. Really hard statement to hear when nothing but crap is raining down on your head, right? You don't get what you want, you get what you are.
And some people would say, "Oh, that's victim shaming. You're blaming the victim." And this is a part of the growth, is taking
Ownership.
radical responsibility for everything
Yeah.
in your life. And from our conversation, at the deepest soul level,
Yes.
before we even came here on earth, you know,
Yes, exactly. So, um, sorry, I just lost the question.
to,
My main.
to that person that's in that relationship, it's
Oh, yes,
radical
thank you.
responsibility for, there's something about me that is perpetuating this experience. I mean, I think it fits kind of like a lock and a key. Like, somebody who's supremely selfish will
Mhm.
pair with somebody who is selfless because it's a
Yes.
lock and a key. It's an asymmetrical balance where they find each other. As that person finds their self-esteem, their self-worth, their self-value, it's no longer a fit. It's no longer a match.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, that's how I look at it. But from yours, what would you say to that person?
So I look at this as a vibrational thing.
Yeah.
So when we're, and that's where this statement comes out, you don't get what you want in life, you get what you are. By that, what I mean is, because the first time someone said that to me, and I was still sitting in my pain of
You're
this
like,
ex being
screw you, buddy.
person to me, I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I'm a good person, right? That's the first thing
Right.
that comes out of my, I'm a good person. I've never hurt anyone in my life, not intentionally.
Right.
How can you say that? Broken, okay, the same way broken people raise
Mhm.
broken people attract broken people, because I'm going to take you right back to your root chakra. Fear, hatred, rage, um, all of those things are incredibly dense, lower vibrational energy, right? Really dense, dark. They're
Mhm.
dark, they're heavy, and they're sitting in your root chakra when you're really broken, right? Fear of my parents, fear of these partners I dated, anger at the things they did to me. All these dense energies. So my root
Mhm.
chakra is vibrating.
Mhm.
It's blocked, it's not vibrating the way it should, and it's only focused on these negative things. So the only thing I can possibly attract is someone who has the same vibration.
Mhm.
So broken people attract broken people. And that's where the statement comes from. Energy is energy,
Mhm.
right? So like attracts like. Now, even a narcissist is broken in the way that their the chakras above them that are their personal power
Mhm.
are so busted wide open. They're so wide open instead of being closed when you're the mousy person being the victim, right? When you're the person who's perpetuating it, then your chakra is so wide open that it becomes like a black hole.
Mhm.
It's like a vortex. So now your all the chakras around it, your heart, everything else can't even come into balance because they're all of that energy is being sucked into the black hole. So they're broken too.
Mhm.
Many narcissists were abused as well, right? And again, this is not excuse making for them. I make no excuses, but the point is broken people attract broken people because like energy attracts like
Mhm.
energy. When I start to remove all that trauma, the things that I wasn't willing to forgive, the things I didn't even know needed to be forgiven, when I start taking all of that darkness, that gunk out of my body, I'm able to put love inside. And the first person I need to learn to love is myself.
Mhm.
If you are in toxic relationship after toxic relationship, you don't love yourself. Also, a really tough statement to
Mhm.
hear, but it's true.
Mhm.
Until you learn to love yourself, and that means treating yourself with respect and treating yourself the way you should be treated. How can anyone else ever treat you that way?
Mhm.
When you heal and you raise your own vibration to love, now the only thing that you will attract is love, because like attracts like. So if you want to change the relationships that you're in, first of all, recognize that they're toxic.
Mhm.
You need to recognize that. If you are always walking on eggshells, if you are constantly looking over your shoulder and waiting for the other shoe to drop, if you are constantly making excuses for other people's bad behavior, you are in a toxic relationship. So own that first, and then do whatever it takes to get out. Save your, so nobody's coming to save you. You need to save yourself. The healing is the same. Nobody's coming to heal you. Heal yourself because you're worth it. And it's going to radically change the way your life is going once you just stop and go, man, I'm stopping all things right now and I'm working on myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
So
that's how you get.
to summarize, the practices that people can take from what we talked about are practices to move your body. That's a big component, moving
Yes.
energy, moving your system,
Yeah.
working on the
Especially
mind.
after any healing, like any, if you're sitting down, you're journaling, you're really
Yeah.
actually working on something forgiving, move your body afterwards, get that to flow out.
Yeah. Or anytime you feel a reaction, sometimes people get clogged up in their organs, their digestion. Sometimes you get an
Yes.
achiness in the chest and you can't quite name it. So you start flowing that energy through your system.
Mhm.
Through the mind is reprogramming those beliefs, repatterning the thoughts. That also ties into the body mind, the neurosomatic pattern. So,
Mhm.
how do I feel in my body when I'm thinking this thought and redirecting the mind into a new positive way? Catching yourself when you're thinking that negative thought and immediately redirecting it to the thought you'd
Absolutely.
rather have instead.
Mhm.
And then through the spirit, these practices such as, grounding, meditating, getting into the chakra system to balance your energy, connecting to some greater power that is that love and light of source, Mother Nature,
Mhm.
um, the beauty all around us, within us, that fractal
Mhm.
of source that we are. Journaling to get these, things out on a piece of paper. I mean, or into your computer, but just seeing them. And sometimes if you get into that flow state, the stuff that comes
Yes.
out when you see it there, you're like,
Yes.
oh my gosh,
Yes. It releases things you
okay.
didn't even know were there.
Mhm. And then the next stage will be getting your second book, which will be a workbook of
Mhm.
all the practices that you did over 4 years to unlock your trauma and to be able to shift out of it to break through those patterns. So this will be really interesting to walk people through those processes. I'm very process driven myself, so I love something like tangible that you can like open the book and it gives me something to do, or an
Yeah.
activity that can help
Actionable.
me
Yes.
figure out
Yeah.
what that is to move through
Mhm.
it. So that's
Yeah.
going to be really exciting. And first, I want to finish your current book. I think I'm about 28 pages in. I can't wait to read more. You're an excellent writer. I'm so
Oh,
invested in
thank
your
you.
story. Um, I'm really excited to get into it. And so for those that want to read your book, it is Finding My Sovereignty,
Mhm.
Memoirs of an Empath. And that's available on Amazon, but you also have a website, which is www.sovereignandsage.com. That's spelled SOVEREIGNANDSAGE.com. So it's all spelled out. And that's where people will get access to your books. Do you have a blog on there or anything else? Or
No, I looked into doing a blog this year and I like wrote six of them out and then I
Mhm.
just got super busy and I just thought, okay, I
Yeah,
need to write the second book first. So I kind of put
yeah,
it aside. So yeah. And ironically, all the things I wrote in the blog are actually going into the book. So I think it was
perfect.
just helping me to,
I
to put
mean,
the lessons in there. Yeah.
that would be the preference. I mean, for those I work with, the work that I do, to have a tangible resource of healing, I think takes precedence. So I'm actually glad that you went that
Oh,
route,
oh,
and
thank
I'm
you.
I'm really excited to see it. So I'll be checking in, your website here and there to see when that second one is out too. So, but
Perfect.
first is like recognizing yourself in these patterns, seeing how you got to where you are, watching the whole story unfold. And there's so much wisdom in that, and people feeling not alone and feeling connected to, they're going through it as well in a slightly different
Absolutely.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
especially people that are a bit older, Gen X and
Mhm.
older, because even if you just follow the generations, just the way generations flowed, I mean, there's a generation literally called the silent generation. I
Yeah.
mean, this tells you everything. People
Yeah.
didn't talk about their stuff, right? So we're locked into those sort of, and so I think it's why when we're older, we start to go, man, I got a pattern here and I don't think
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't start healing till they're older. But wouldn't it be a lovely gift
Mhm.
if we changed that for our children and changed out of the generational trauma that, first of all, we're not even programming those broken aspects of ourselves into
Yeah.
them, but also we're giving them the tools to look at before they get to this age, if you
Yeah.
will, right?
The
Where you
faster we do it, the more we can enjoy our lives. We're going to have a
can,
whole lot more fun here on Earth in this soul having an experience.
yes, thrive, right? Come here to
Yes.
thrive, get out of survival mode and start thriving.
Wonderful. Well, it's been such a pleasure to hear about your story, the wisdom you've gained, the lessons you've learned so far, the mindset, the outlook, the framework that you operate from, and sharing this with other people on their journey too. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Tina. And we'll link to everything in the show notes. Have a great day. Bye, you
Thank
guys.
you. Take care.